Welcome, everybody. My name is Mina Jane. I'm the director of the Ashland Public Library, Massachusetts. I'm very excited to be here for um, at Red Reviews,
Whatever.
um, talking about horror and thriller recommendations. As you know, Jody's been doing this all year long, and she has actually agreed to do it again next year. So I'll send everybody the link to sign up for next year. It's going to be the same deal, half an hour, once a month, a little bit later, starting at 7:30 on that second Tuesday. But I am so thrilled to continue this series, which I have had such a good time with, even though I don't read horror because I'm a weenie. I love it. So, Jody, welcome back. I
Welcome
know,
back. Welcome me back.
well, I know you're
I'm
making an extraordinary effort to be here,
I
being
am.
away, but I so appreciate it. So, what are we talking about today? I heard you say something about holiday horror.
I have some holiday horror that I brought along that I'm still trying to plow through because I have like a week and a half left before Christmas.
Mhm.
And so I have been trying to incorporate it a little bit of Christmas into every week before then. So first I'm going to start with this is the Scary Book of Christmas Lore, which is it's it's Christmas horror, but it's more like I use it as a reference book because it's all folklore from around the globe of how they celebrate Christmas, or it's the darker side of Christmas, like Krampus, and there's something called a Yule Cat, which is the thing. Yeah, it freaked me out, but I asked my daughter about it, and she knew all about the Yule Cat, which just blew my mind. And there's goblins and just all sorts of really dark parts of Christmas, which I thought was kind of fun. I had originally listened to this on audio, and I love the audiobook so much that I needed to get the physical book because, like I said, you can use it as reference because, I need to use these things as reference. And it's got some really great pictures in here as well. Yeah, isn't that creepy? It would be, I should find the Yule Cat because that just blew my mind, a Yule Cat.
Who's the author again?
This is Tim Rayborn. I'm not familiar with him, but
Okay.
I think he's done a bunch of other reference books. And Krampus is in this book, but he doesn't really like it's not the whole book. But even though Krampus is one everybody knows, I read a couple of years ago Krampus by Brom, who, if you are a fan of horror, you have to read everything that Brom's ever written. I have a copy of it. I did not bring it with me, so you all don't get to see the cover, but it's of this beautiful Krampus with his long tongue sticking out, and he's got holly on his ears and his beautiful horns, and it's just we are very much a Santa family. I'm trying to incorporate Krampus more into our lives because my kids are older now and I can't freak them out. And I finally got a black Christmas tree, so yeah,
You'll
so
have
I'm
to.
decorating it with all things evil and Krampus, and it's just wonderful. And I'm trying to find like a star that fits this or a big Krampus head. So yeah, we're a little dark on Christmas. So, anyways,
Hold,
folklore.
so hold on a second. Hold on a second. So for that is like sort of a, an, like almost a dictionary of like Christmas
It seems
horror
like it is, yeah,
things.
yeah.
So what is the purpose of that? I mean, like, when did this happen where we have like this sort of dark side of Christmas? Like, I remember when Elf on a Shelf was out and it was so cute. And then all of a sudden people started doing funky
You
things
can
with
do
him.
so many bad things with him. I'm so glad my kids never reached that happened after my kids were too old for that. But I would have done really bad things with Elf on the Shelf if I had been given the opportunity. That elf would have been the things that parents are coming up with. I mean, it's your time to torture the children. I thought Halloween was the time to torture children, but you can have so much fun with it. Actually, I say that. Funny little quick story. I know it's not book related, but there was this one year that we gift wrapped my kids' bedroom doors on Christmas Eve while they were sleeping. So they'd have to run through the gift wrap to come downstairs. And I had never done it and they didn't know what to do. So my son kind of figured it out and he came through the wrapping paper. My daughter sat down on the floor on the other side of the wrapping paper and cried.
No.
She was like, Mom, I can't get out of my room. And I'm like, you're supposed to just crash through the wrapping paper. It's supposed to be funny. She's like, I don't want to. And I'm like, oh my God, I've ruined Christmas. So yeah, there's people like me who love the just not, I'm not a good parent.
You did make your daughter cry.
Her
But
birthday and Easter.
I'm really curious about like this turn of, something that has always been like sweet and whatever into like this like that we can turn it around. What is that?
Well, honestly, Krampus has always been, he's a century old. Christmas story.
Mhm.
And he dates back to Austria, and he was, it was brought in, well, the traditions of the old brought into the United States when they come over to the United States. And 2019, I think, was when the Krampus movie came out. I don't know if that's what kicked it off more in mainstream American culture. I don't remember really seeing anything Krampus before 2019. Um, and I would have been in tune to it. But I mean, he's always been around. I have friends that have known about him for years, and I didn't know about him till around then. Um, but I like that there's a darker side to all this merriment and whatnot. I mean, Santa's kind of creepy too. He breaks into your house, man.
That's right. That's right. He's got little elves that he calls elves, but they're actually like little slaves.
Yeah, they're little goblin slaves,
Yeah.
right? See, you're on the same path as me. So
Oh, one
that
second more. I just want to remind everybody, if you have anything you want to chat about, feel free to use the chat. We always have funny conversations here. But if you have a question for Jody, please put it in the Q&A.
yes, please. So my next up is The Visitor by Sergio Gomez, and this is a novella. It's like literally my daughter's like, how many pages is that? It's all of like 89 pages. I read it in one sitting. So nothing says holidays like aliens. Um, I didn't know what to expect. I knew that aliens were going to be involved in this. It's one of those stranded in the middle of nowhere, ice storm, people are gathering at this diner, and then an alien descends on the diner and bad things happen. So is it like Die Hard where it's a Christmas movie because it takes place during Christmas time? Yes. Did I actually enjoy it? Yes, because the alien was really, he just didn't care. There's a lot of intestine horror, which is becoming I've noticed a big thing in some of these books. Because, you can decorate a tree with intestines, Mina.
Oh, can you string them with popcorn?
It's a wonder what you could do with eyeballs. These are things I'm finding in these books. In the Halloween horror is how they decorate trees seems to be a common thread, which I think is hilarious. So this was a pretty good book, quick read. I loved it. I thought it was a quick little bit of horror.
Did you say what you liked about it?
I don't the aliens?
The aliens and the fact that they didn't care that it was Christmas. They just
They
were.
don't care. They're just there to do their research, and the people are like, oh, it's Christmas. We're spending our time with the pie and our family at the diner. Well, they all die except for the dog. The dog doesn't die, which makes me happy. So this is Candy Cane Kills Again. So I should have brought the first book because I have that book. Look at that cover. You see how beautiful that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you're not thinking it's beautiful,
No,
but
I do like alien. Is it
her
alien?
little. No, she's just this really creepy little girl who just slaughters everybody. But that's the stained glass behind her. So in the first book, which it became Brian McCauley's like best-selling book, Candy Cane. You go behind the legend of her and how she died, and she's come back to life, and it takes over and kills all the people that are in her parents' house, and you get a little bit of her history of why she's the way she is. That is extremely gory. So he got such a great response. He wrote a second one, which is Candy Cane Kills Again, and you get more of her story in this book. But this is more of a revenge story for her, where she breaks out of the house that she was brought up in, and really goes to the church that her parents took her to and told them that everything that she was doing was wrong, and her and her sister were wrong and bad and evil. And she takes out her revenge on the people of the town and the church. And she really doesn't hold anything back. She's just out for blood. And the best part, okay, so this obviously it's a holiday horror slasher. She sings Christmas carols while, I mean, it's just like you could hear them in the back of your come, oh ye faithful, as she's slicing this axe into these people's stomachs. It was awesome. And this was Christmassy. It blew my mind, but it was actually, I know, Mina, I'm sorry. It was very Christmassy. I think I liked it better than the first book. I would love to think that there's going to be a third. I think he has it in him, but I'm not sure if there is going to be a third. But there could be. It was just really great. I can't recommend this enough. It's a shortwave book. So it's an independent publisher. And it's one of those super thin books. You can read it in one sitting.
Okay, so I have to read everything in order. So do you have to read these two in order?
You should. At least with this one, you should.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to get the majority of why she's the way she is from the first book, and then you can continue with her wrath in the second book,
Mhm.
but they go more into the religious aspect in the second book.
Okay. So before you get on to the next book, though, what is it about slasher books and slasher movies that people like?
Well, I like it when it's really a revenge thing, when they come back from the dead, or I don't think she's dead. I think she's like undead. I don't think she's undead. I think she's kind of alive. I don't know. I don't remember from the first book if she's really alive, but it's a revenge thing. I like that. And I like the chase and the hunt. And with this book, it's very hunty. You have that slow, she's got to go from the house to the church, and that's a slow motion crawl getting there. But the whole time you've got that Christmas Carol song that she's singing, and it's like, instead of that the horror music, you've got the Christmas Carol. Like, I love that. I love how cheesy it can be, and it's I don't know, the revenge. I just love the revenge aspect of it.
It sounds like it would make a great movie.
I think, honestly, I really wish and it would sell huge around the holidays. We
Mhm.
speaking of holiday horror, we watched Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
this is a horror movie called Thanksgiving. Oh my god, it's so horrible, it's so good. And that's a slasher movie, and that's all about Thanksgiving. And I'm like, this is a new tradition, we're going to watch this every Thanksgiving. So if this becomes a horror movie, we'd watch it every Christmas.
That's awesome. I'm not a big slasher fan just because it's so gruesome, but I I I know people that live for it like
Yeah,
that. Well, yeah, we'll watch every slasher film they can, even if it's like the 15th time they've seen it.
it gets less gory the more you watch over and over again. Like, I've seen Scream 1,000 times, and I'm at the point now where I laugh at every time someone gets stabbed. And when I first saw it in the theater, I was like, oh my god, oh my god.
It's
And now,
amazing. It's amazing to me, Jody, that you're such a nice person because like you're so desensitized
sensitized.
to
Well,
gore.
I have to tell you, when we were watching Thanksgiving, there's two scenes in that I actually cringed, and my daughter, like, she like fake dry heaved and looked at me. She was like, "Oh, mom," and I'm like, "Oh, they went there." And so there's a rumor that there's going to be a second movie, and she's like, "Mom, they're going to get even worse." I'm like, "No, we might actually vomit."
The sign of a good movie.
Yeah,
Joanne also agrees that Thanksgiving is a great movie.
yeah, and it's got McDreamy in it from Grey's Anatomy. Blew my mind. Actually had a pretty great cast. There's a bunch of big names in there.
Mhm.
I was like, what? This is such a weird, campy slasher film. What the heck is he doing in there? And he has a Boston accent, which is horrible. He sucks at it. So good. So good. Okay, so next I'm reviewing this tomorrow on my page. Um, this is You Better Watch Out by Matt Forget. I'm probably saying his name wrong. And this is an independent. I think he published this one on his own because I don't see a publisher on it. It's called a Christmas horror comedy. That's a thing. Didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that you could actually put that it's a comedy. Grady Hendrix does it without actually saying that it's a comedy. But this is straight up hilarious. This book it's about this small town, cute little quaint small town called Pennsylvania, and they revolve around their tinsel making factory. Everybody works there. It brings all the money in. I didn't even know tinsel was still a thing, but he brought it back. And there's this person dressed up as a reindeer that is wreaking havoc on the town, killing off prominent families in this town, in this reindeer costume, which is great. And he gets creative with how he kills them. And there's a whole story behind why he kills them. So there actually is substance to the story. But don't read it for the substance. Read it there's so much nostalgia in here from the 90s. The conversations, the conversations that these people have with each other are like, they're just hilarious. This is absolutely freaking hilarious. I absolutely loved it. The ending is serious, but the rest of it was so campy and stupid, and you cannot take this book seriously. But it's not a Die Hard movie because it actually takes place during Christmas in a Christmassy town, and everybody is celebrating Christmas. There's a damn reindeer. You got Santa. You got everything in it. This is as Christmas as they get, but it's hilarious. And
Is
again, the
it,
tree decorating happens.
is it slashery or is it more
Yeah.
suspense?
Oh God.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
there's a lot of decapitation too. So if you can't deal with the heads being chopped off, like, there's a lot of decapitation. I think everybody loses their head in this one.
So I'm going to tell you a terrible and horrible story about tinsel. My cat, we had
Isn't I
tinsel,
thought it was outlawed because of cats, wasn't
maybe, but because she couldn't digest it, so we actually had to pull the tinsel out of her.
it? You have a
You know,
pull cord.
it's disgusting. So talk about horror.
I haven't seen tinsel in a store in years, so I really do think it's outlawed because it's also made with super bad chemicals. So it's not just bad that it gets wrapped up inside the animals that are eating it, but the chemicals, get into their bloodstreams and can kill them that way. So tinsel's a bad thing. But it's like, and they know it in this book that it's a bad thing because there's a scene with the chemical. Anyways, and also in that book, the way the writer picks out the strangest names for every character. I mean, there's some weird freaking like Pennsylvania for a
So
town.
cute. It's so clever.
I'm like seriously, like it's all like that. The main character, her name is Mary, and she meets a guy named Bright. It's like a really horrible Hallmark movie. It really is.
I actually might actually pick that one up and just like close my eyes during the slashery parts.
Huh? I think you can avoid them. Anytime the reindeer comes out into the store, you know something bad's gonna happen. So another book that I wanted to mention, I don't have a copy of. I did that one audio. It's also called You Better Watch Out, which I'm like, I realize that there's two books with the same name, but this one is published by a big publisher. So I'm sure Matt had no clue about that. It's by James S. Murray, and the cover has this large knife that's been gift wrapped. Very simple cover. Christmas. It looks Christmassy. So I don't read the covers or the back flap. So I went into it not knowing what it was going to be about. All I saw was Christmas wrapping paper and a knife. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a Christmas thriller. Let's do this. So the book is set around Christmas, but that's it. That's the only thing that's Christmassy about it. Little disappointed in that. But if you took all that out and the book took place not during Christmas, the book would have been phenomenal. I really, really, go ahead there. Nina, you are a wizard. This is why I like you. See that? Don't you want to read it based on that cover? Like, look at that.
I know the knife wrapped in paper. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the way to go. So it takes place during Christmas, but it's not a Christmas book. So you can read it really any time of the year and not be like, oh, I can't do Santa Claus in the middle of the summer. It's definitely not about that. To me, the way to describe it, it's like I think there's like six main characters are trapped in a fun house.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can describe it. But they're not trapped in a fun house. In reality, they're trapped in a town that's made for these people. They were all kidnapped and put there to be hunted.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not even there yet. So I think that's been done before in books. People put there to be hunted. I'm pretty sure there was a movie called Hunter or Hunted where that's a thing.
Agatha Christie book, but go ahead.
Agatha's she's on. We are repeating Agatha, so there's no way to avoid Agatha. Anything that we do. So they're in this town and they have to stay alive, and they have no food, they have no water. They're going to each house in this little town. Some of the pieces of the town are actual props, which is weird because they're like, oh, we're in this real town, but it's not a town. A blizzard's hitting them, so they gotta not die of hypothermia. But in each building they go into, they're booby trapped, and someone's gonna die. So I think there's six, and they whittle them down one by one. People are getting killed, and then you get to the final two people, and that's where there's a twist that happens, which I'm reading the book and I did not see the twist coming. Again, really hard for me not to predict the twist. So if I can, that was automatic 5 for me if I don't predict the twist. It just gets worse. And then it ends very satisfactory and unsatisfactory. It's the only way you're going to be mad, but you're going to be okay with it. It's just really good. And it's very just the whole book takes place in that town and is very fun housey. So read it for that. I think it's not horror. I think it's actually a thriller, but there are horror aspects to it. I think you could do it. It's not super gory, but there are, I think there's acid in one thing that like burns a face or something, which isn't as bad. I don't think there's any decapitations.
I think I can deal with that.
Yeah.
It is an Agatha Christie book called And Then There Were None.
Right. See, she's in everything.
Yeah.
I don't think you can you can't write a book or even write a song now without repeating some of the the classics. So
Well, I'm sure there's elements of all of that in most. I mean, like, you pick and choose elements, I
yeah,
guess. But yeah, that it really reminds me of that, and
I
I
like that. I
loved
like it
it.
when they
So,
get picked off slowly. But putting them in like a funhouse atmosphere, I love that even more because it booby traps you don't see very often in books, and like a tripcord and an axe comes down at you. That kind of stuff is fun because you don't see it in books. So it happens in this book. They thought of it in this book.
okay, well, I will give that one a try.
So that's all I have for my Christmas horror. That's as far as I got. Um, Now I'm going to move on to some thrillers that I did squeeze in. I don't think I talked about this one last time, did I? Beneath the
Uh,
Poet's House. It takes place in Providence. It's very Poe oriented.
I don't think you did. I
Okay,
can double check, but I don't think you
double
did.
check because I wasn't sure. I couldn't find if I did or not. This is by Krista Carmen. She's a Rhode Island writer. I adore her as a human, and her last book was really good. That was The Daughters of Block Island. She writes very gothic stories, and this one is all about Poe. It's well, I mean, Poe's not a main character. There's normal, modern people, but everything revolves around Poe fandom. And did you know that Poe has a history in Providence?
I did. I don't know why.
I didn't know that. I went to Virginia. I thought that was where he was, like everything with him was Virginia, but apparently it's Providence as well. So one thing I like about Krista's books is because she places them local, you can go there.
Mhm.
She does have things that she made up in here, but there's a lot that are really do take place in certain buildings in Providence. So I kind of want to do like a Krista Carmen Poe related tour and see everything. Her last book took place in Block Island, with a house that is no longer there. I kind of want to see that foundation. Like she makes me want to go to these places and explore. But this is about, I should probably tell you what it's about. A woman who is, her husband died. She's starting over a new life in Providence. She meets some strange people, becomes friends with them. She finds out that she's living in the house that was Poe's former girlfriend's house, and she may or may not be haunting it. So there's always that ghosty sort of aspect, but is it not? Is it really a ghost in her books? She likes to leave you sort of wondering. And there's a love interest that comes into play, and it's just it's really dark, and the end gets really twisty and really dark, which I didn't think Krista would do that, but she did. She writes horror. I don't really know that this is horror, but she goes dark without. There's no gore,
Mhm.
but it's good. This was really good. This is going to be my top 10 for. It came out today, so I can put it in my top 10. It's 2024.
So, I met her at Spooktacular and
Yeah,
she was so fun. I wouldn't imagine her going, I mean, I don't imagine any of them going really dark because they're so fun.
she's like the nicest person, and she's super freaking intelligent. You get her started on something that has to do with Rhode Island dark history, she knows every freaking thing about it, and she will tell you about it. But she writes, it's like there are parts of this book that were like poetry. She just has beautiful way with words,
Mhm.
which I don't know that you should have that in a thriller. Like I want her to write like this literary fiction horror book where she can be all of her beautiful wordiness and be appreciated. And I think she's not appreciated in these thrillers the way she should be. Love her. She's just so nice. I love
It's
her.
the Carmen. Okay, well, keep an eye on her because I did want to pick up some of her books.
Oh yeah. Well, this should be, you'll pick up this one. This
Okay,
one is my new favorite of her. I did like her last book, but I really loved this before.
okay.
So next is smoke season. I don't think I talked about this last time. It's hard to like keep track of because I do go a little bit further. This one is about a wildfire that takes place in, oh God, where is this supposed to be? Oregon. Oregon?
Oregon.
Oregon?
I
Ah,
say Oregon.
potato potato. Um, so it's very fire department. What was that show that was on cable for a hot minute with the fire department?
Yeah.
It's a lot like that. It's very firefighter drama. But then in the next breath, it's this one particular firefighter's family is they have to get out of the fire zone because their daughter has a heart problem and she can't breathe, and it's all about making sure she stays alive. So you have that time crunch of getting out of there before they die, right? But you also have community coming together and trying to help them and help each other, which is great. It really is a thriller because I could not stop reading this. It was a page turner because that fire just keeps creeping closer and closer and going into these areas that they keep trying to escape, and they have to save their house, they have all their family stuff in it, but they can't, and they're running. And you have the mom who's the firefighter. She can't get to them because she's got to do her job, and it was just as traumatic. Like, I was like sucked in. And then there's some other stuff that happens, like a sub story, that is another time crunch, and it just becomes another, like, it's all compounding on everybody all at once during this fire, and you have no control over this fire, and it's going to take out the town, but you got your own things you got to worry about. It was intense. It was super intense. I think, no, this is not a debut author. I must read the other stuff. Amy Hagstrom. Not familiar with her, but if all of her books are like this, I'm going to read them because it was seriously, I couldn't put it down.
I think that show is called Fire Country.
Oh, yes, my husband is addicted to it. Oh my God, he's forced me to watch so many episodes of that. Like, they're fighting the fire in the woods and they get trapped in the woods, and you got to do a controlled burn to keep the fire. That's all in this book. Like, that whole entire series is in one book. I don't know if the main characters are sexy or not, like they are in that series. I don't really care. I want to make sure they live.
Right.
It just, like, the fire really is the enemy, is the bad guy in the story. I mean, there are human bad guys in the story as well, but, like, oh my God, and then you're like, the little girl has a heart defect and you want her to live and she can't breathe. And I'm like, oh my God, I pulled on my heartstrings. I don't like to cry. I had to hold it in. Oh my God, it's so good. All the feels.
I'm just gonna say really quickly too that I think that it makes sense for in a TV show or a movie for people to look a certain way because that's what you're going to remember about them. Whereas in a book, anything goes. Like as soon as, like, they say you have red hair, like, what does that look like? Is it da, 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 da? Like, you totally use your imagination.
We don't need that. That just gets in the way with a book like this.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, real life firemen don't look like that.
No.
Because at least where I live, no.
Okay, you have time for one more.
One more. Okay, I didn't bring it with me. I do have a copy of it. It's called Cross My Heart by Megan Collins, who I am a very big Megan Collins fan. She's a Connecticut writer. I've supported her for a long time. And she writes thrillers mostly for women, which I really like. And this one is about a woman who has a heart transplant, and she wants to get in touch with the husband of the woman's heart that she took. So there's a lot that goes into play with this because she starts to fall in love with this guy. Is it her falling in love, or is it her heart remembering the love? So you've got that sort of weird thing, right? Then you have this relationship with him, and he's a writer, and I don't know how to describe this without giving away spoilers. There's a lot that happens, a lot of I don't know how to describe this. It's the heart transplant. Bad things happen. It's a thriller. Things are not what you think they are. The people around her are not who they seem. You're rooting for her because she's the underdog, but is she really the underdog? Because she kind of cyber stalks him. The book is about obsession. I know, right? She went there. It's about obsession. It's about female stalkers, and how easy it is to stalk people now. Like, seriously, Mina, you and I are Facebook friends. I know your life story now. You don't send me on Facebook. I'm going to cyber stalk you. I'm pretty sure Megan Collins wrote this bookie about me. And so she cyber stalks this guy and his life with his wife. And she knows everything about him before she's even met him in real life. But then when you move past that obsession, reality kicks in, and there's some twist in there that you don't see coming. There's murder in there, 2 murders in there. I was really thoughtful. I just thought it was great. The whole heart. Is it your heart? Is it her heart? I like that, right? Like, if you're getting that, you get an organ from somebody as important as your heart, like, I would think right?
Yeah, I would totally.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
That's right. And a new body all over it.
right? I was telling my daughter about this book. She's like, "Are transplants a thing, Mama?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think brain transplants are a thing." She's like, "Are they? Do you know this?"
Frankenstein.
That doesn't count. And Frankenstein is a crappy book. I don't even want to talk about that book. We read it for book club and it sucked. Nobody else wanted to read it after that. It was, oh God. Anyways, brain transplant. So she's asking me this. And because like if you're taking a person's brain, you're essentially putting their personality into your body and your personality gets canceled out because you have their brain. Somebody needs to write a story. This has got to be, this already has to be in a book somewhere, right?
It has to be. We'll have to talk to our people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or make it happen. I'll talk to them. I put on Instagram. I'm probably running out of time. Real quick, that bittersweet. I
Mhm.
wanted someone to write a horror story about bittersweet because my grandmother always said it was going to come and choke her in her sleep. And we have bittersweet growing all over my yard, and it made me think of that. And like I got responses on emails that are like, "I think I'm going to write this bittersweet story," and I'm like, "Yes,
I love it.
ask it, it'll happen."
You are going to be in a dedication whether you want to be or not. Okay, well, thank you, Jody, not just for today, but for a full year of fun and recommendations that have been fantastic. And I look forward to next year for doing it all over again. So thank you so much. For everybody who's been here, I will send out the reading list, and hopefully your holidays will be full of horror and thriller and
Intestines on your Christmas tree.
popcorn. All right, Jody, have a wonderful rest of your vacation, and
Thank
I
you.
will talk to you soon. Take
Happy
care.
holidays.